this Ajayi injury. I remember talking to Dr. McHale about this injury in the past. I think Derek Carr had the injury in the past, so I kind of had a little bit of background that I could have leaned on thanks to Kevin McHale, and he brings you the injury report brought to you by Cape Regional Health System and Dr. Kevin McHale with Penn Orthopedics and Cape Regional Health, the best of both worlds for a healthier life. For an appointment, call 609-463-CAPE or visit caperegional.com/orthopedics. And, Doc, I remember talking with you a year ago, this transverse fracture in the back that Ajayi has. So I had a little bit of remembrance, but if you can kind of, when the listeners are hearing that Ajayi is going to play with a fracture in his back, how's that even possible?
Yeah, anytime you hear about spine injuries, you get pretty concerned. And when they throw out the word fracture, we all know it's a broken bone, you get even more concerned. But, there's a wide spectrum of injury when we talk about the spine. We talk about Ryan Shazier last year. He had a really severe injury. When you have an injury that causes instability to that spinal column, the protection of your spinal cord or nerves, clearly can have devastating consequences. But more commonly, maybe small little fractures can occur. And it's to these little bony prominences where a lot of the muscles in the low back attach. They're called the transverse process. They kind of stick out of the spine in the back. And when usually it's from a real high velocity direct impact or a big twist to the back, you can have these little cracks or breaks in these bony processes sticking off the spine. They are very painful. I mean, it hurts a lot. But, with rest and some rehab, these players can get back pretty quickly. They will, Ajayi will be playing through some pain. It's not comfortable, but it's a stable injury. It will heal on its own with time. The pain will subside more and more with each week. But it is, it's not going to be fun. We saw that Derek Carr had this last year, and, Tony Romo out in the past, Cam Newton, a variety of guys, most of them only miss about one game. If multiple levels are involved or multiple fractures, sometimes a little longer, but usually they're able to bounce back after a game of rest and play pretty well.
Yeah, Jay mentioned that his back was bleeping hurting, so I guess when it actually happens, you got a lot of pain, that subsides, and then this is like a pain tolerance thing, and I would assume not a high level of re-injury, and otherwise you guys wouldn't let these guys go out there and play with such an injury.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a completely stable injury. It's not something that's concerning. It doesn't threaten the stability of the spinal column or anything like that. It is truly just a pain tolerance thing. It doesn't mean it's not very painful. I mean, outside of pro football, we most commonly see these injuries in car accidents. So it's a high velocity injury. It hurts a lot, high energy mechanism, but it's safe. So they can get out there and play as long as their pain allows them to. And obviously we want to make sure that they have enough pain control that they're able to play well. The pain has to subside to a point where they can protect themselves and, they're feeling okay. But it's a safe injury to play through.
Next up, Rodney McLeod, season-ending surgery to repair a torn MCL. So the obvious question is, we've seen other guys with this with an MCL issue. His looks like a torn MCL. So why hear that this guy out for the season and others have been able to kind of play with this injury?
Yeah, that's a great question. So obviously, we don't have a chance to look at his MRI and look at the studies. But there's really only two reasons why people wouldn't be able to treat these non-operatively. The vast majority of MCL injuries, either the strain, that grade 1 sprain, or the partial tears, they heal really well non-operatively. And even some of the grade 3, that complete tear of the MCL, most of them will heal non-op. And actually players, even with the more severe injuries, get back to play around 5 to 7 weeks. So there's a couple of scenarios that could require a surgery. And one is if that ligament is actually a complete tear, but also that it pulled off the bone far enough, and typically it's from the tibia side of it. When it pulls off the bone, sometimes there'll be just normal tendons that you have attaching to the tibia that kind of separate the ligament from where it's supposed to be attached. With that very specific injury pattern, the ligament can't heal back to the bone because there's tendons stuck in between. So sometimes it's a very specific injury pattern that you can kind of push a doctor to say, you need surgery. It's not likely going to heal without surgery. The other thing, though, is there something else going on in the knee? We only heard that it's the MCL, and hopefully that's just it. But most of the time, it's another injury in the knee that requires a surgery, and the MCL is fixed at that time. We kind of went through something similar with Carson Wentz last year. It was just the ACL, and then a few weeks later they released that he also tore his LCL too. So I'm hoping that's not the case, but if there is something else going on in there, that will be one indication for surgery, or this very specific, severe, grade 3 complete tear where it pulls off the bone too far and they think, it's just not going to heal on its own.
All right, this week's opponent, the Tennessee Titans, they have their own injury problems. Marcus Mariota, this is interesting. He didn't start last week, but he came in the game. They acknowledged that he's having difficulty gripping the football and that he can't make all the throws. He's dealing with a pinched nerve in his throwing elbow, numbness and tingling in a couple of his fingers. So what's the story with this?
All right, so this type of injury, an ulnar nerve injury, so when we ever hear the funny bone in your elbow, somebody taps you on the elbow, you feel that jolt of numbness and tingling or the pins and needles sensation that rushes your hand. That's typically from your ulnar nerve. It's on the inside of your elbow, and there's two kind of common scenarios where people injure this nerve. One is from, we get a lot of pitchers will get it because it's this chronic, repetitive stretch on the ulnar nerve, especially if they have an underlying ligament injury or just a repetitive laxity that causes a stretch, and that's one way to get it. The other one from a direct impact directly to the nerve that leads to such a severe bone or a nerve bruise that it causes these kind of symptoms. The nerve controls your small finger and your ring finger as well as some other muscles in the hand, so it's incredibly important for pinching strength and grip strength, which is why he's having trouble throwing that tight spiral, and you can lose a little bit of velocity and accuracy because of that decreased grip strength. They have him in a glove to kind of help with that so that way he can improve his grip. But it's definitely going to be a little bit of a challenge in this early period. A lot of times, if it's from a direct impact, it will resolve on its own. It just takes a while. It takes several weeks to maybe even months. So it's not something that's going to happen overnight. We do hear of stingers and burners. Those are nerve injuries that resolve in seconds, seconds, maybe minutes. But this is clearly going on much longer, and I wouldn't expect it to be done anytime soon. He's going to be dealing with this weakness and numbness probably for at least a few more weeks. But as that continues to improve, he should be playing a little better.
All right, last one. Adam Schefter reported an MRI confirmed Jimmy Garoppolo torn ACL, and there's also believed to be MCL. Now, we talked a little bit about the MCL, but different from Carson Wentz, who had the LCL with the ACL. So how does this affect Garoppolo moving forward in his future? How long of a road with these two ligament problems?
So this is a much better combination than the ACL, LCL like Carson Wentz had. With the MCL, as we talked about before with these other guys, most of the time it doesn't need surgery. And even in the setting of an ACL tear, it typically will heal with just a brace alone. So most of the time, people get the ACL reconstructed, treat the MCL injury in a brace. It heals fine on its own, and it really won't affect him long term. For him, it's happening early in the season, which is unfortunate, obviously, because he's missing this whole season. But it shouldn't be much of an issue when he gets back to play next year. There's a lot of comparisons between him and Tom Brady because he played with the Patriots. Tom Brady had the exact same injury in the early part of a season. He came back the next year and played really well. It's very different than that LCL because the LCL injury, like Carson Wentz had, doesn't really heal on its own very well and typically needs to be reconstructed. So that added ligament reconstruction surgery adds significant time to the rehab and healing process, and it plays a much bigger role in getting back to play. And also the timing of the injury plays a big role as far as how it's going to impact him next year as well.
Any surprise with what you saw from Carson Wentz? I know you're watching as a fan yourself, so as a guy who knows what these injuries could be like to come back, were you like, wow, I'm surprised he was able to do some of the things he did with that injury?
Yeah, I'm always impressed by him. He is a tough guy, and he played very well for a first game back after a really severe injury, and really just as, the best timeline as possible. So he played really, really well. I had a couple of runs for a few yards that weren't, he looked pretty mobile. Obviously, we're used to seeing him a lot faster out there and getting some more yards on the ground, but I think he looked really well for his first game, and I can't wait to see him get better and better each week.
Also, Alshon Jeffrey cleared for contact. We asked about that before. What exactly does that mean? Does that indicate to you, with the injury he had, that he's cleared for contact? Does that indicate to you that he will be ready to play on Sunday?
Yeah, I think to me that means that barring any setbacks, he should be out there this Sunday. There is a catch to that because I think he didn't practice today. I think it was marked as an illness.
He was sick.
So, yeah, so hopefully that's just going around, and as long as it's just an illness, I think he should be all set for Sunday. I think Michael Bennett had the same thing a couple of days ago. At least it was marked as an illness. But if that's the case, I think we should be seeing him Sunday. And since it was an upper extremity injury, he had plenty of time to train. Hopefully his endurance and his speed's still there, and we see him get back to 100% pretty quickly.
All right, another great week of the injuries as Dr. Kevin McHale really does a great job breaking them all down and giving us a better feel on what's happening here, especially with the Eagle guy and Mariota, who will certainly be keeping an eye on him on Sunday. Today's injury report brought to you by Cape Regional Health System and Dr. Kevin McHale with Penn Orthopedics and Cape Regional Health System. The best of both worlds for a healthier life. For an appointment, call 609-463-CAPE or visit caperegional.com/orthopedics. Doc, thank you so much. Enjoy the game.
All right, thanks a lot. Hopefully we get another one this weekend.